In this video lecture, we are going to focus upon the most important topics of Chapter 2, Consumer Behavior. So listen and prepare this video till the end. Now, the most important topic from UGC-NET set examination point of view is elasticity of demand. First of all, let's understand what is the meaning of elasticity of demand. We have already done that. What is law of demand? Law of demand explains the relationship between price and quantity demanded, and that relationship is inverse in nature, right? So that means law of demand, it states only about the direction of change. It tells that there is negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. The demand curve is downward sloping, so we can say that law of demand only indicates the direction of change in quantity demanded as a result of change in the price of a commodity, right? But what is elasticity of demand? Elasticity of demand, it tells us about the degree of change, कि कितना change हुआ है, meaning how much is the percentage change in the quantity demanded of a product as a consequence of a percentage change in its price and other determinants. Thus it is a quantitative statement. It means that elasticity of demand क्या है कि कितना परसेंटेज चेंज जो है हो रहा है इन क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड ऑफ अ कमोडिटी बिकॉज ऑफ एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ देयर इज सम परसेंटेज चेंज इन प्राइस. वो कितना चेंज हो रहा है, दैट रेफर्स टू इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड. I hope you have understood this. So these are the keywords. Let's revise. Law of demand, it tells us about the direction of change, and elasticity of demand, it tells us about how much is the percentage change in the quantity demanded of a product. So from examination point of view, you must prepare these two statements. First, elasticity of demand refers to the amount of reaction, kitna, in the quantity demanded of a commodity for a given change in any of the determinants of demand. Determinants of demand we have already covered. The idea of elasticity of demand, you should know, it was given by Dr. Alfred Marshall. Further, next topic is types of elasticity of demand. So there are three categories, there are three types of elasticity of demand. First is price elasticity of demand, second income elasticity of demand, and third cross elasticity of demand. We have to cover all these three types of elasticity of demand very nicely in next. Now, the first type of elasticity of demand is called as price elasticity of demand. So in this case, it tells us about the change in quantity demanded of a product because of a specific percentage change in its price. For example, an 18% increase in the price of a laptop can lead to a 6% fall in its demand among the students. What is price elasticity of demand? Whatever percentage change in price of the product is there, because of that, how it impacts the change in quantity demanded of that product, this is referred to as price elasticity of demand. It specifically focuses on price of the commodity or product. And in this example you can see, जब 18% से प्राइस जो है लैपटॉप का इंक्रीज हो रहा है, देन ऑब्वियसली जो डिमांड है फॉर दैट लैपटॉप it will decrease, so it decreases by 6%. You have to remember the formula with respect to price elasticity of demand. It is represented by EP. It is in numerator percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price. So we put in the formula 6% upon 18%, it comes out to be 0.33, which represents how much sensitive is the quantity change in response to the price of that product, and it is denoted by negative sign. Why it is denoted by negative sign? Because there is inverse relationship between the price of the commodity and demand of the commodity. That is the reason. Further, there are degrees of price elasticity of demand. So there are 5 types of degrees of price elasticity of demand. You should learn these 5 types very nicely. This is UGC-NET question. First is perfectly elastic demand. Second, perfectly inelastic demand. Third is unitary elastic demand. And fourth is greater than unitary elastic demand. It is also referred to as relatively elastic demand. And fifth one is less than unitary elastic demand. It is also referred to as relatively inelastic demand. So remember these 5 points. So the first point is perfectly elastic demand. Let's understand this. In this type of measurement, with a little amount of change in price, थोड़ा भी अगर change होगा ना price में, the quantity demanded changes a lot. For example, with a little rise in price, अगर price थोड़ा सा भी increase हुआ, the demand for a product, it will fall to zero level. And a little fall in price, अगर थोड़ा सा भी price कम हुआ, it will cause the demand to reach infinity. That is why the elasticity of demand, it is equivalent to infinity. It is represented like this: EP is equal to infinity, and the demand curve in this case, it is parallel to OX axis. Right? So you understand that with a little rise or little fall in price of the commodity, the demand falls to zero or it reaches to infinity. The demand curve is horizontal to OX axis, and it is an imaginary situation. It is not a realistic situation, and this type of demand curve is found in a perfectly competitive market. These are the points to remember. So the second type or degree of price elasticity of demand is called as perfectly inelastic demand. In this type, the quantity demanded of a product, it remains the same regardless of any change in the price of that product. So let's see over here in this figure, you can see even if the price rises from OP to OP2 or it falls from OP to OP1, you can see the demand curve, it stands parallel to the OY axis. There is no change, right? So this is called as perfectly inelastic demand. Let's read over here. It means with a rise or fall in price, the demand does not change at all and the demand curve runs parallel to OY axis. It is a vertical demand curve, or we can say the demand curve, it is parallel to OY axis. You have to remember all these wordings. Now let's take an example. For example, the demand for having a medicine that is necessary to fight one's ill health will not change even if the price changes to a greater or lower level. This is easy. अब जो मेडिसिन है वो उस पेशेंट ने लेनी है, चाहे उस मेडिसिन का प्राइस ज़्यादा हो रहा है या कम हो रहा है. The need for taking that medicine is there. So the demand in that case is perfectly inelastic demand. Right? So it is an extreme case of price insensitivity. Even if the price is changing, the demand of the product remains the same. So this is all with respect to perfectly inelasticity of demand. And because there is no change in quantity demanded, so the elasticity of demand for such type of products, it equates to zero. It is represented as EP is equal to 0, indicated in this figure 2.11. Now here we are going to discuss other degrees of price elasticity of demand, and all this content is very much important, right? So UGC-NET questions are asked on the basis of this area now. So you listen it very carefully. So the third degree is unitary elastic demand. The basic understanding is what? Whenever there is a percentage change in the price of a product, it brings the same percentage change in its demand, right? So the percentage change in the demand, it should be same whatever percentage change in price of the product is there. For example, if there is a 15% increase hike in price, it produces an exact 15% decrease in the quantity demanded, right? So with 15% increase in price of the product, if there is exact similar same equal 15% decrease in quantity demanded, then the elasticity of demand, it will be equal to 1. How? We can put it in formula: 15% in numerator and 15% in denominator, it comes out to be 1. So this is called as unitary elastic demand, and you have to remember, prepare this very nicely. Again and again UGC-NET is asking questions on this area. The shape of demand curve with respect to unitary elastic demand. Remember, the shape of demand curve, it is corresponding to that of a rectangular hyperbola. Now, what is this rectangular hyperbola? It's just a mathematical term. You can understand its meaning a little bit. It states that whatever the area that comes under the demand curve, it is constant with respect to all the price and demand combinations. So first of all, I will make you understand what is a rectangular hyperbola from this figure. You can see that there are two rectangles. One is this one, which I have marked in blue color, and the second rectangle is this one, which I have marked in green color. So both these rectangles, they come under the demand curve, and the feature of rectangular hyperbola is that these two rectangles, the area of them is constant, whatever be the price and demand combinations, right? So whatever I have discussed with respect to rectangular hyperbola, this is not a UGC-NET question, so don't take headache for this. What you are supposed to prepare is that with respect to unitary elastic demand, there will be same percentage change in quantity demanded of a product. You have to remember this is highly important. At different points on the rectangular hyperbola shaped demand curve, you can understand, if we talk about this is what, with respect to unitary elastic demand, rectangular hyperbola shaped demand curve. At different points on this demand curve, the elasticities are all equal. This is very much important. Now I have picked over here some UGC-NET questions which we are going to discuss. So let's discuss this one. Which one of the following statements is correct regarding the slope and the point elasticity on all the points? Read it carefully on your final day on a rectangular hyperbola shaped demand curve. तो अब जब ये वर्डिंग क्वेश्चन में लिखी है rectangular hyperbola shaped demand curve, तो automatically this is unitary elastic demand. So from the options, try to understand. In the first option, it's given point elasticity goes on changing. No, this is not the answer. What you have learned over here in your content, that elasticities are all equal, right? Second point is slope goes on changing, while point elasticity, it remains the same. This is the answer to this question. You have to remember that the slope of the demand curve, that maybe it is changing, but जो point elasticities हैं, they will always remain equal or they will always remain the same. The fourth option, you can see point elasticity goes on changing. This is not the answer. You have to cross it down because you have learned that elasticities are all equal or same. And in third point, what silly mistake you can do is both slope and point elasticity remains the same. Here point elasticity remains the same is correct, but slope also remains the same. That is incorrect. So do not make a silly mistake. You have to learn, you have to remember that the slope of this type of demand curve, it goes on changing, right? So another UGC-NET question I've picked over here is, the question is a rectangular hyperbola shaped demand curve on all its points has, answer was unequal slopes, you have to remember this, and equal point elasticities. This is the answer to this question. It cannot be equal slopes and unequal point elasticities. I hope you are very much clear with this point, that is unitary elastic demand. This is highly important from UGC-NET examination perspective. Again and again, they are asking a question on this topic. Next, the fourth degree of price elasticity of demand is greater than unitary elastic demand. So let's understand. It is a situation when a percentage change in price, there is a change in price of the product, right? Obviously, it results in a relatively more or greater percentage change in the quantity demanded of that product. So what is greater than unitary elastic demand? कि जितना भी percentage change in price of the product होगा, but उस वजह से ज़्यादा percentage change होगा in the quantity demanded of that product, that is termed as greater than unitary elastic demand. For example, if there is a 5% decrease in the price of air conditioners in the month of July, August, अगर 5% से एयर कंडीशनर्स का प्राइस जो है वो गिर रहा है, फॉल डाउन हो रहा है, देन बिकॉज इट इज़ द मंथ ऑफ जुलाई अगस्त, देयर विल बी मोर डिमांड. द परसेंटेज इंक्रीज इन डिमांड विद रिस्पेक्ट टू air conditioners will be definitely more. So there will be 10% increase in demand of this product. It's just an example. So because of this, We can calculate price elasticity of demand like this. In the numerator, what you have to mention is percentage change in quantity demanded. Here in this example, it is 10% and percentage change in price of air conditioners is just 5%. So when we solve this, what we get is 2. So what is 2? 2 represents elasticity greater than 1, or we can also call it as greater than unitary elastic demand. I hope this is clear. So such type of goods are termed as luxury goods. Why luxury goods? Because थोड़ा सा प्राइस गिरने से उनकी जो क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड है that has increased much more than the percentage increase in the price. What else you have to remember is the demand curve for such type of goods is flatter. You can see in the figure ये जो demand curve है that is flatter in shape. It is not steep. So this is all about greater than unitary elastic demand. What else you can learn is it is also called as relatively elastic demand curve. The last point is less than unitary elastic demand. So do not cram, just understand in this case what will have happen, that because of the percentage change in price of the product, whatever percentage change in quantity demanded will happen, that will be relatively less. ठीक है, तो कम परसेंटेज चेंज होगा इन द क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड ऑफ अ प्रोडक्ट. दिस इज टर्म्ड एज लेस देन यूनिटरी इलास्टिक डिमांड. सो लेट्स टेक एन एग्जांपल. फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ देयर इज अ 5% डिक्रीज इन द प्राइस ऑफ सॉल्ट, it will lead to only 2% increase in its demand. I hope you understand. सिर्फ 5% से सॉल्ट का जो पैकेट है उसका प्राइस अगर कम हो रहा है तो उसकी जो डिमांड है वो सिर्फ 2% से इंक्रीज हो रही है, राइट? सो सच टाइप ऑफ गुड्स आर बेसिकली टर्म्ड एज necessities or necessaries of life. We can also calculate it by using the formula. In numerator, 2% will come, which is representing percentage change in quantity demanded, and in denominator, percentage in change in price is given, that is 5%. So elasticity of demand comes out to be 0.4. It means that elasticity of price is less than 1. And in this case, you have to remember that demand curve for such goods is steeper in shape. You can see the demand curve over here is steep and the demand curve in this case is flatter. I hope all these points are very clear to you. Thank you. Revise the points which we have already covered under the topic, that is degrees of price elasticity of demand. You have to remember this for match the following question. Also on one side they can write down these points and on the other side they can write down this wording also: horizontal curve, vertical curve, rectangular hyperbola, flatter, steeper, or they can put you these figures also on one side. So here you can prepare a match the following question. So let's revise. Perfectly elastic demand, it represents a horizontal curve which is parallel to x-axis and elasticity of demand is equal to infinity. Perfectly inelastic demand, it represents a vertical curve which is parallel to y-axis and herein elasticity of demand is equal to 0. Next, unitary elastic demand, it represents a rectangular hyperbola shaped demand curve where elasticity of demand is equal to 1. Then greater than unitary elastic demand, it represents a flatter demand curve with elasticity of demand greater than 1. Last point is less than unitary elastic demand, which represents a steeper demand curve with elasticity of demand less than 1. I hope this topic is very much clear to you.